I have to say, this is another great installment in the series. Now, I have to say this up front, because if you're going into this expecting the same stuff as the Caesar trilogy, this is not going to be that. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. As you can tell, I am very happy here for what we're about to be talking about. Welcome back to Epictastic Joshua. I talk movies, TV, music, and anime on a few occasions with the last two. My name is Joshua Drake. If you're new here or if you know me, this is going to be my review of the newest film in this long-running franchise, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. All of my revisited reviews of the first 8 movies, minus War of the Apes, has led us to this. This is the sequel to War of the Planet of the Apes, but this is the start in a new trilogy. This is the 4th installment in the reboot era, and this is the 10th overall in the franchise. Stars Owen Teague, Freya Allen, Kevin Durand, Peter Macon, and William H. Macy, and this is directed by Wes Ball and written by Josh Friedman. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes takes place 300 years after the events of War of the Apes and follows a young chimpanzee named Noah who embarks on a journey alongside a human woman named May to determine the future of apes and humans alike. I was one of those people who was interested in another Apes movie after the Caesar movies. I did have a little concern because we were not going to be following Andy Serkis anymore because of what happened with his character in that movie. But I was still interested to see what another Planet of the Apes movie would turn out. I thought the Caesar trilogy of movies was absolutely fantastic. Each one got better than the others, and I've been a fan of the Planet of the Apes series. I think it's a criminally underappreciated franchise that not a lot of people talk about, which is the reason why I wanted to revisit them before this movie. When I saw who was directing it and who was going to star in it, I was a little more optimistic. Wes Ball is a pretty good director with a pretty good track record. I think his Maze Runner trilogy is severely underrated. We do not talk about that trilogy as much as we should. And I do think it was a pretty good young adult trilogy of movies based on books. And I think he has potential to make for a really good live action Zelda movie since he is attached to that. And so, having seen this movie now, I have to say, this is another great installment in the series. And I have to say this up front, because if you're going into this expecting the same stuff as the Caesar trilogy, this is not going to be that. This is a completely new story with new characters. That's the thing I really did appreciate when it comes to this movie, is that the fact that despite this being a sequel to War of the Apes, is not a continuation of that story or of the Caesar storyline. I really do appreciate the fact that Wes Ball and Josh Friedman as the director and writer, they attempted to go for something a little bit different after War of the Apes, because the Caesar story arc was so perfect in that trilogy of movies in this reboot series. There's almost no place for you to go with this. Sure, you could have had Cornelius or you could have name dropped him, but I feel like moving away from that 300 years later with the World of the Apes was the smartest decision I felt they could have done. The fact that they do build on what that original trilogy was. It's not as thematically enriched just yet in this planned trilogy of films, but I think when we get the next 2 movies, we will get there. But what I like about this first self-contained movie, or the 4th film in this, is that despite the fact that this is moving away from the Caesar story arc, it never forgets what that original trilogy built off. The themes are still there, but they also managed to take some of the themes we know and turn it on its head. Like, what if you have our main villain, of course, he is using Caesar's teachings for a bad way, and also how will this world of apes survive with humans and apes alike? What would determine the future? But also, what is the one character who continues to actually know about Caesar's teachings? And also challenges you how this would work when it comes to a new character. Basically, it is kind of a coming of age story, but also has a bit of what that original trilogy was, and that's the thing I appreciate. They don't just negate the original trilogy, they don't pretend like it didn't exist. They fully acknowledge that this is building off of what that last trilogy was, and that's something I gratefully appreciate when it comes to this film. Not everyone is going to appreciate the fact that this is taking notes from that original trilogy and building off of it without Caesar, but I think that is the best way. If you're going to do another Planet of the Apes movie in this rebooted franchise, this is your only way to go. And I think the way it talks about that absolutely do a phenomenal job. And Wes Ball's direction here, when in terms of the story, but also in terms of the action set pieces, you're gonna get your action in this movie. It is very good. The way he shoots action is very gritty and is very fast, but it keeps you enthralled. And if The Legend of Zelda movie is anything like this, I think Wes Ball could really make a damn good Zelda movie. I think that's overall the number one thing when it comes to why I really enjoyed this. Really wanted to honor what came before, and I think that was a good decision. Complexities of Caesar's legacy loom large, but in a twisted coming-of-age space odyssey of knowledge and power and secrets and lies and truth. That was a very good idea. I'm just very impressed with what the writing and the filmmakers decide to do. The way they chose to tell this story was through and through their vision. It's not studio mandated. It feels like these directors making these Apes movies, it feels like a labor of love. It doesn't feel like it's going through a committee. And I appreciate that, because some of these movies can, even the smaller scale, micro budget, can feel like it's a committee. I appreciate when you actually have love intact. Cinematography wise, this movie looks gorgeous. The landscapes, the world, the grand scale of things. This, like I said, these are some beautiful looking movies of recent Planet of the Apes movies, even some of the original Planet of the Apes films. The cinematographer here is Gola Pados. I feel like the visuals here stand out a lot. Of course, your motion capture and CGI work is there, but I still really admire the fact that they actually shoot these movies on location. While it's a lot of motion capture and such, they do put as much effort as making sure this is filmed on location as possible, and not just everything in front of a green screen like you will see in the Avatar sequels. But I definitely like that idea. Acting wise in this movie, there's not a lot of humans or a lot of characters in this movie, but I really do enjoy what they go for in this. You have Owen Teague playing Noah. He is a young chimpanzee hunter. I was really invested into his character arc, and going forward, I do want to see more of what this character can bring to the Planet of the Apes new trilogy of films with a new characters and a new story. He's not on the level of Caesar, but I think when we get more movies with him, we will get there. Durant, it does take a while for him to show up as Proximus Caesar, but he is pretty much frightening. He is intimidating. He's not trying to be Koba, but that's the thing I do appreciate, that he's not trying to be Koba. He wants to be his own villain, and I really think that he did a very good job in this. Peter Macon was very funny as Rockeye. He's very funny, really hilarious, and I thought he did a lot of funny aspects in this. Really did like some of the comedy he had here. Freya Allen, who plays May, and I won't give away spoilers for this character, but what I do take her at the end of this movie, I do like in this. She doesn't have a lot of dialogue to her, but I do appreciate the fact that she has very little dialogue, and her facial expressions is what has to sell it, and she really does commit to a lot of what the performance is given, and I thought she did a very good job here. I've only ever seen her in Gunpowder Milkshake, where she played a young Karen Gillan, but here I think she does very solid for the role that's required from her. William H. Macy and Duchesne Lagaman, and also Eka Darville and Sarah Wiseman, and I really thought that the acting was really solid here. And for the $150 to $160 million, it looks real. It looks like you're actually in this world because of the mix of CG and practical locations. And I think more big movies going forward should make use of a mix of CG and practical locations. It's okay to do things on the soundstage, but you always want to make sure you have practicality there. The score is also really good as well by John Paciano. He's also a frequent collaborator with Wes. He does a really good job here. I also really enjoyed the editing for the most part. This movie is 2 hours and 25 minutes. For the most part, I did not feel it. My only sort of gripes when it comes to this movie is, I will agree, some of the pacing here, at least for the first 25 to 35 minutes, there is a way I feel like we could have still get introduced to Noah and what happens with him and his family and such in a more efficient way. And I feel like not cut the movie down a bit, but just like speed a few scenes up here and there in the first half. But I do feel like that's one of the only issues. Like, we could speed a few things up in just the first couple minutes, and it does take a while to get going. But once we get into that other rest of the movie, the second and third half, and when shit starts to hit the fans, it really starts to build into something very good. There are things that are left hanging in the balance in terms of some thematic themes, which will be explored in the future movies. I wanted a little bit more out of Kevin Durant. He's very good in here as Proximus Caesar, but I will say it does feel like he's in here enough, but I feel like we could have added a little bit more of him in the first half. At the end of the day, I'm happy to report that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is another win for this long-running 50-year franchise. 10 movies in, multiple years worth of Apes films and mythology. This is another win for this franchise. We went from post-apocalyptic to fantasy, and the performances are really good, the acting is good, direction is solid, it leaves things nice, ready for more in the series, and I'm just happy to see more of this world. If you are a fan of the Planet of the Apes, this needs to be seen on the biggest screen possible. Go see it. When it comes to streaming, watch it. When it comes to physical media, buy it. This is summer blockbuster movie making. Again, my few gripes, but this movie has so much great things to offer, and I'm very curious to see how this goes going forward with the Planet of the Apes franchise. Well, that's gonna do it for the video that you just watched. If you want to see more, my channel icon is up here. If you want to see more content from me, all my social medias are right here in this end card. I will also leave a playlist and a video here for you to see what the channel is about. As always, acknowledge me, stay epictastic, join the Epictasticness, and you guys keep it cool.